Today we're going to be doing Unit 1, Notes 5B, so we're going to talk about writing inequalities. And so today we're going to be doing some writing of some equations, and we're also going to be doing some graphing. So it's time to get our thinking caps on so we can go through and do this. Okay, so let's start by taking a look at number 1. Okay, just a reminder of all of these symbols. We talked about those just a little bit ago. So the biggest thing to remember are these keywords right here. That's what's going to tell you what to do in the word problem. So you took these on Unit 1, Notes 2A. So if you look at Unit 1, Notes 2A, you can go ahead and look at those, and that will give you those words. All right, so let's take a look. We already did that. Okay, let's take a look at number 1. So for number 1, it says Hannah budgets $30 a month for lunch. Okay? On most days, she brings her lunch. She can afford to buy lunch at the cafeteria or the fast food restaurant. So she has $30 that she can spend. Okay? So she has $30 that she can spend. So X is going to be the number of days that she eats lunch at the cafeteria, and Y is going to be the number of days that she buys lunch at the restaurant. So what we have here is we have $30. So whatever we spend has to be less than or equal to. We could spend exactly $30 if we wanted. So for every X lunch that I buy at the cafeteria, it's going to cost me $3. For every Y lunch I buy at a restaurant, it's going to cost me $6. So now normally when we were working on this, we would just stop there. We have our equation written, we're good to go. Well, today we're going to take it a step further and we're going to graph it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to graph this by solving for y. So I notice that that's a positive 3x. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 3x from both sides. So then I have 6y is less than or equal to negative 3x plus 30. Next thing I want to do to solve for y is to divide both sides by 6. So then we have negative 3 6. So that fraction I can reduce. Both of those numbers are divisible by 3. So that's going to give me a negative 1/2 x. Okay? Then what I'm going to do next is I am going to go ahead and I'm going to divide 30 divided by 6. And that's going to give me 5. So this is my equation right here that I can graph. Okay, so y is less than or equal to negative 1/2 x plus 5. So let's go ahead and let's graph that. So we're crossing the y-axis at 5. Notice that I have a line underneath my inequality symbol. So that means I'm going to have a solid line. So I'm going down 1 over 2, and that's my next point. I have a solid line connecting those 2 points. Okay, so now I know I need to look at my inequality symbol at the very end. Remember, you always look at the last one. So the last one is y is less than or equal to. So that means I'm going to shade down. I pick a spot on the line and I go down. So pick a spot on the line and go down. And then I'm going to shade that in. Now notice this is only the first quadrant. This is only one of the 4 sections of the graph. That's because negative numbers don't make sense in most word problems. So we're just using that top right portion of the graph. Let's take a look at number 2. Rosa Padilla sells radios advertising in 30-second and 60-second time slots. During every hour, there are up to 15 minutes available for commercials. How many commercial slots could she sell for 1 hour of broadcasting? Okay, so instead of doing 15 minutes, I don't want to have seconds and minutes. I want to have one or the other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 15 minutes and I want to convert that into seconds. So 15 minutes, so for every 15 minutes, so for every minute, there's 60 seconds in a minute. So I'm going to take 15 times 60, and that's going to give me 900. So that's 900 seconds of radio advertising. Okay? That's one way to do it. Or you could look at it this way. 30 seconds is 1/2 of a minute. Likewise, 60 seconds is 1 minute. So you could also put it in minutes. Let's do that to keep our graph numbers smaller. Okay? So we're doing 15 minutes. So all of my terms are in 15-minute increments. So whatever I use for commercials, I only have 15 minutes. I can choose to do less than 15-minute commercials, which would be nice because I hate commercials. Or I could go all the way up to 15, and I could do exactly 15. So for every X 30-second commercial I have, it's going to be 1/2 of a minute. For every Y 1 minute commercial I have, it's going to be, well, 1 minute. Okay, so now we need to solve this for x. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract this 1/2 x. Typically when you're bringing your x term over to the other side, you're subtracting it, because usually your x term is positive in these word problems. So I'm going to leave y, so then I get a negative 1/2 x plus 15. So now I need to go ahead and I need to graph this. So I'm crossing the y-axis at 15. So here's 12, 13, 14. Here's 15 right here. Okay, then I'm going, my slope is a negative 1/2. So I'm going down 1 over 2 and plotting that point. Now I notice the line underneath the inequality symbol. That's going to be a solid line. Okay, then I notice that my alligator is facing away from the y. So I'm going to shade down from the line, and my shading is going to be in here. That shading's working really well, isn't it? It's not quite catching up with me. So I'm shading right in there. Okay, that is some beautiful math right there. Let's take a look at number 3. So for number 3, it says that Lee Cooper edits and writes short articles for a local newspaper. It takes her about an hour to write an article and about a half an hour to edit an article. If Lee works up to 8 hours in one day, how many articles can she write in one day? Well, let's take a look at this. Okay, so first of all, what I want to notice is that an hour to write an article. So I want to put everything in the label hours. Okay, whoa, come back to me. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at that. Represent x. So I'm going to let the half an hour represent x. The half an hour is going to be x, and the hour is going to be y. It doesn't matter which order you pick it in as long as you tell me. So then I have that 1/2 x. So for every half an hour I write, I have 1/2 x. It's a half an hour. For every hour it takes me to write, it's 1 hour. And then that has to be less than or equal to $8 because I don't want to work more than $8, or 8 hours, thank you. So then what I want to do is I want to subtract 1/2 x from both sides. So then I have 1y is less than or equal to a negative 1/2 x plus 8. So I'm crossing the y-axis at 8. And then I'm going down 1 over 2. And that's going to be a solid line, okay, because it's less than or equal to. Then from the line, we're going to shade down, okay, because we want to work less than 8 hours. This line right here represents what would happen if we were working exactly 8 hours, but we want to work less than 8 hours. Okay, let's take a look at our next problem. So taking a look at number 4, Coach Washington wants to take her softball team out for pizza and pop. Each large pizza costs $12. So I'm going to let this be represented by X. Each pitcher of pop costs $3. I'm going to let that be represented by Y. Notice they labeled their axes down here. That's a good idea, just to keep things organized. And she doesn't want to spend more than $60. So whatever she spends needs to be less than or equal to $60. So each large pizza costs $12. So for every X large pizza I buy, it's going to cost me $12. Okay? Then for every Y pop that I buy, it's going to cost me $3. Now, in order to graph that, I'm going to have to solve for y. So again, I'm going to subtract 12x from both sides. And then I get 3y is less than or equal to negative 12x plus 60. Next thing, divide both sides by 3. And then I get y is less than or equal to, first I'm going to do negative 12 divided by 3, which is going to give me a negative 4x. And then 60 divided by 3, which is going to give me 20. So over here, we're crossing the y-axis at 20. Then we're going down 4 and over 1. So it's really important here to look at the scale. So to go down 4 on this graph, that puts me about right here. Then I need to go over 1. Well, that's going to put me here. So I'm going to connect those two with a solid line because I decided I could spend exactly $60 if I wanted to. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to shade down. Color that in. And that's my answer for that one. Let's just do a little bit of a regraphing review for this one. Okay, so let's start with this first one. Y is less than or equal to 2/3 x plus 1. So here we're crossing the y-axis at 1. Remember that number you add on is always where you're crossing the y-axis. Then 2/3 is going to be my slope. So I'm going up 2 and over 3. Okay, and then I'm going to have a solid line. That is a terrible solid line. Connecting those 2 points because they have the line underneath. Okay, because there's that line underneath. Then I notice that the alligator is facing away from the Y, so I need to shade down. I need to shade down, if it'll let me, from the line. And so that's where I'm going to end up, in there. Okay, next, let's take a look at this one. Oh. There we go. Okay, so this inequality symbol right here should look like this. Whoops. Struggle busting today, guys. So it should look like that. So and now in order to graph this, we have to solve for y. That's what we've been doing, but let's just do it for some practice. So first thing, I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. So then I get negative 5y is greater than negative 3x, plus 15. Now, in order to graph this, I need to divide both sides by negative 5. Now, I'm dividing by a negative number when I'm talking about the inequality, so I need to flip the symbol. So I'm going to make this less than. Negative 3 over negative 5 is going to become positive 3/5 x. And then 15 divided by negative 5 is going to be negative 3. So I'm graphing positive 3/5 x minus 3. So I'm crossing the y-axis at negative 3. And then my slope is 3/5. So that means I'm going up 3 and over 5. And I need to have a dashed line. There's no solid line between or on our inequality, so my line is dashed. And then when I divide it by a negative, I flipped my symbol. So now I need to shade down instead of up. So that's why it's really important that you remember to do that. Otherwise, you would forget to flip your symbol. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. And this one, it should have 12 here. So for this one, in order to graph it, again, we have to solve for y. So we have 12x plus 3y is greater than or equal to 12. So first thing I want to do is subtract 12x from both sides. And then I get 3y is greater than or equal to negative 12x plus 12. Last but not least, I want to divide both sides by 3. Then I get y is greater than or equal to negative 12 divided by 3 is negative 4x. 12 divided by 3 is 4. Okay, so we're crossing the y-axis at 4. And then we're going down 4 over 1. There's a line underneath it, so it's going to be solid. And then the alligator is eating the y, so I'm going to shade up. I pick a spot on the line and I shade up. And I'm going to go ahead and color in where it landed. Last but not least, let's take a look at this guy right here. Okay, so this should be less than. Okay, that should say less than. I'm not sure what happened with my poor symbols. Okay, so we're crossing the y-axis at a negative. Okay, we're crossing the y-axis at a negative 5. And then we're going, so here's my negative 5. And then we're going up. This is the same as 2 over 1. So we're going up 2 over 1. And plotting that point. Now we're going to have a dashed line going through those two because there's no line underneath. Now the alligator's facing away from the y, so I need to shade down. So that right there is your final answer. Thanks for listening and show me your completed note sheet when you're done.